This is the section of the Patreon show that I'm chopping out for the YouTube viewers on the Hoops Crew. We're going to talk about the Talls on the weekend. The Cats played the Giants, but it was Geelong's Giants who smashed GWS, really. And the headline act, obviously, is Jacob Molier. But we'll talk about a few others as well. But let's start. We'll give you an entree. Let's talk about Mitch Edwards before we get into Jacob Molier. Mitch Edwards has been on this list. I think this is his third season on Geelong's list. It's either his second or third. And he's had some trouble with injury. He's been in and out of the side, like a lot of Geelong's Talls have been, with injury. So he comes back into the side the last few weeks, and he's easing back into playing, his best footy. And if you haven't watched Mitch Edwards play yet, he's extremely tall and he's extremely athletic for his size. Last season, there was a game against the Swans where he was doing ruck work. Then he was dashing along a wing, a la Mark Blixarv. So that sort of gives you an idea of his skill set, his height, his athleticism. Geelong love these players that have sort of diverse skill sets. I mean, all teams do, but Geelong have just used some of theirs to particularly good effect. So on the weekend, Mitch Edwards comes back into the team. He has 8 touches, 5 marks, 2 tackles, 11 hitouts, 2 clearances, and kicks a goal. So he displayed all of the traits that you're looking to see when you draft a player like that. He's marking the ball well. He's then able to use his athleticism, his agility once the ball hits the deck. And I'll just say too, with his marking, 2 of his marks were contested, which was good for equal second on the team. The ball use is still a bit at the moment, disposal efficiency. But I think Mitch Edwards is showing signs. My sort of benchmark for him before the season was, could he get back into the team, like get back healthy, and then can he finish the season healthy, which then allows him to have a good preseason, get some miles under the belt, and hit 2026 in good form and fitness. So I think he's a really promising player for the Cats. I think there's a number of ways you can use him. I think primarily you'd be looking to use him as a ruck who can then sort of pinch hit in other areas. But I think we're on the right path. We've all got to cross our fingers that Mitch Edwards stays healthy and can attack 2026, the start of it, in good fitness. Because if you can do that, I think we've got another really exciting, tall, athletic prospect at the Cats. Jay Polkinghorne, you're going to look at his stat sheet this week: 11 touches, 2 marks, 2 tackles, 1 goal, 1. And maybe think, not his biggest game. 4 inside 50s, 4 score involvements. I was impressed with Jay Polkinghorne again, because obviously he comes off the back of, I think he kicked 4 goals last week, looked like the number 1 tall, looked a lot better in the side when Jacob was there as well. It's sort of Jacob Molier was able to go push up the ground a little bit and do some of that linking work that Jay Polkinghorne sometimes gets drawn out to do. When Molier's been in the side, Polkinghorne's been able to stay at home a bit more. And I was really impressed with his game. I thought he marked well. I thought he tackled well. And that's been something I've given a big tick to for Jay Polkinghorne in his rookie season, is that he has tackled really well for a big player. And, you look at Geelong's AFL side. A few weeks ago, there was only 2 key forwards in the top 10 in the comp for tackles inside 50 per game. Those 2 players, Jeremy Cameron and Shannon Neal. So if you're going to play as a big forward in that Geelong AFL setup, you have to be able to tackle. You have to be willing to pressure. Geelong don't want to lose pressure ability by playing, tall guys who won't pressure, who won't chase. That it's sort of a bit of a prerequisite wherever you play in this Geelong AFL side, that you pressure. So he's averaging this season over 2.5 tackles per game, which I think for a big forward is really good. He's averaging about 3.5 marks per game, and he's also kicked 22 goals, 12. So I think this is a great rookie season so far for Jay Polkinghorne. I think he's developing really nicely. He's looking strong-bodied and mobile. So he's ticking all the boxes so far. That leads us, though, to the feature tall here in this video, and that is Jacob Molier, who is just playing his second game, obviously had some injury stuff to get through to get on the park, and get his season started. But now that he has, we can get very, very excited, I think. There was flashes of it last week. I really enjoyed his debut against the Tigers. I thought, as I said, him being in the side really opened up what Polkinghorne could do. It allowed Polkinghorne to stay home in the forward 50, and Jacob Molier, led up the ground and took some great marks around the ground. This weekend, though, it was all about his goal kicking. Jacob Molier kicked his first, and then he kicked 3 more. So he kicked 4 for the game, did Jacob Molier. 4 goals, 1 from 12 touches, 5 marks, 1 tackle, 1 hit out. He was exceptional. And the goals came in a variety of ways. He had set shot goals. He had goals from close range. He had a snap on his right foot running towards the boundary and kicking back towards goal. He had an absolute, almost Jeremy Cameron-esque, obviously inverted because he's a right footer and Cameron's a left footer. The ball comes to him in the pocket. I'd say maybe, 15, 20 meters out, tucked against the boundary. No hesitation. Just puts it on the boot and dribbles a kick home. And he was so impressive. He was so impressive. Jacob Molier. 2 contested marks for him in this game out of, let me just have a look where. So 2 of his 5 contested marks, 2 of his 5 marks were contested. And as I said, hitting that scoreboard, 4 goals. Great moment between he and Patrick Rechko. Patrick Rechko is a player, who's been racking up, sort of 20 touches a game out on the wing. I've had some question marks about his disposal efficiency, particularly his kicking, more the kicking style. He sort of suffers from something that Ted Closey also does, where they just lean back a little bit too much on the kick and can sort of put too much air under it. Always sort of looking to kick longer and higher than I think would be ideal. Well, there was a moment where Rechko had the ball on the far wing and sliced this beautiful chiseling kick that just drew Molier out of the pack to mark on his chest. And it was like, rinse and repeat, boys. That's what we want to see. That is the ideal. The Rechko kick is what we want to see. The Jacob Molier leading out of the pack to mark on the chest is what we want to see. And I think the sky's the limit. I was really excited by Jacob Molier's draft highlights. I think I picked him on the Chaps Chat Cats episode we did. He was the player I was most excited about. He's sort of got the draft highlights. Obviously, he's listed as a ruck in his draft highlights, but I think the Cats see him, at least right now, as a forward. And, he's spring-heeled. He jumps at the ball. He leads well. I think he can go and do a job in the ruck, but I think that will be, in terms of an AFL context, you probably want to put a few more kgs on his frame. But goal kicking wise, how exciting. 4 goals, 1 for him this week. 4 goals straight for Polkinghorne last week. I mean, combine that with Mitch Edwards, combine that with Toby Conway apparently getting healthy to play against the Collingwood VFL side this week. We're pretty lucky, It was not that long ago that it was sort of like, oh shit, Geelong, do they have the tools? We're talking about players who are just playing VFL at the moment. There's a scenario next week where we line up with Edwards, Pike. So Joe Pike's another one of Geelong's tools in the ruck, and he has been developing really well. Joe Pike was thrown into a really tough position this year to start the season. No Edwards, no Jacob Molier. Reece Stanley's having to play the ones because Toby Conway's injured. So Joe Pike was thrust from being maybe Geelong's 2nd or 3rd ruck in the VFL into being the primary guy. And he's competed so hard. I've been really impressed with Joe Pike. So there's a situation next week where we line up with Pike, Edwards, Molier, Polkinghorne, and Toby Conway. That's pretty exciting. And then you've sort of got these medium tall players like Keaton Matafai-Forbes. You've got tall mids like Mitch Nevitt. Sam de Koning hasn't even been playing AFL the last few weeks. So I think I love to see that Geelong are going after talls. We saw it after Selwood's retirement, like that draft class following the Selwood retirement was, where we started to dig in to look for mids. Where we looked, I think that's the draft where we took um, Jai Clark. That's the draft where we took Ted Closey. So we started to sort of flip those shells. We started to look for players to replace the guys who were going. And I love that the Cats seem to be looking forward and being like, okay, Blixarves is, and I love Mark Blixarves, but he's not going to play forever. No one does. Jeremy Cameron, he's not going to play forever. Reece Stanley, not going to play forever. So you've got these players, these tall players who are keys to what you do, who are going to be disappearing in the near future. Geelong are starting to bring them in. The last few draft classes, they've started to try and look what they can find in the positions that they're drafting, and they are finding some exciting prospects. And obviously, where Geelong draft, is always going to be downside to the upside. Whether that's rawness, whether that's for a lot of these big guys, it's an injury history or an injury cloud. And then the Cats just get them and see if they can develop those kinks out of them. So right now, I think it's a really exciting place to be for the Cats, and we know they'll be aggressive in free agency. There's always the old, Tom de Koning rumors, etc. But right now, the crop of youngsters we've got, headlined this week by Jacob Molier. There's a lot of reason to be excited as a Cats fan about our talls. All right, I'm going to continue on with the Patreon show now. If you want to get the rest of this podcast, if you want to listen to what happened before I talked about the talls, go on over to the Hoops Crew, start a 7-day free trial, do weekly VFL player analysis videos there for you to check out. We've been doing them for a couple of years now, so there's a big backlog of episodes if you want to go back and listen or watch previous thoughts on players. Go check it out on the Hoops Crew Patreon. Start a 7-day free trial. All right, thanks for tuning in.